Guruve Gauri Chanjaya Radhikaya Tadali Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dandavat Pranam, devotees. So again, I'm trying to catch up to, I'm a little behind actually in some of the questions and answers. And I'm promising that certainly I will try my best to render that service, which I've kind of vowed to do. By getting around to those questions, either by direct response or by doing it on this forum, especially for those who requested to do it on this forum. I'm trying to accommodate that as well. So I do have a lot of services to do today, so I want to try to be brief and I want to try to be to the point according to the title. There was a question about the variations, and I've spoken about this before also. Dandavat Sadhana Siddha Prabhu. So I think I've spoken about this before previously, but reiterating it is, I think, important because a big part of the seva that we do to Guru and Gauranga is both digesting in our personal study the teachings and the theology that's been given by our Guru Varga, as well as disseminating it or preaching. So I think it's extremely important to be have an insight in doing that. That's very important, and that insight is perspective. So here perspective means there is a point being made in our Gaudiya Vaishnava literature, which is vast. So to have that much writing from our Goswamis, from our contemporary acharyas, and it continues even to this day, but the theme has not changed. So, of course, the question could arise, if there's only one central theme, why is it necessary to write so many literatures? Especially exemplified by our Srila Jiva Goswami Pad, who's written over 400,000 verses, and obviously the commentary and explanation of those verses. Why so much for a single theme? So I expressed before that even though the theme is singular, it is unlimited. Tulya Bhagavata Krishna Vibhu Sabasrai Prati Shloke Prati Akshare Nana Artakai. So Srimad Bhagavatam is described as being non-different from Krishna. So there, just in that statement, Tulya Bhagavata Krishna, it means Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the Mool theological foundation, is equated with Bhagavan, who's unlimited. So then it says, Prati Shloke, every verse, no, wait. Prati Akshare, every single letter, every compositional letter of Srimad Bhagavatam, Nana Artakoi, has so many different meanings. So all of these meanings, however, have a perspective and they have a theme, right? So it's very important both in our self-study, it's called Shwadhyay, and in our prachar, means our speaking or preaching or disseminating. We have to have clear perspective on what was the theme and intention of Srimad Bhagavatam. In the second verse, which is called the Vastu Nirdeshtatmaka verse, Shri Vyasadeva Ji has mentioned Dharma Projita Kaitavatra Paramo Nimatsaranam Satam. He described that this Srimad Bhagavatam, first of all, Dharma Praujita Kaitava, that it has kicked out all cheating Dharma. So first of all, a question should arise in the mind. How can Dharma be cheating? If it's genuinely Dharma, how can it be cheating? So I've given the example before. If you were by inheritance due to collect maybe $1 million, but somehow or another, the administrators of that inheritance, and you were in a condition where you were perhaps broke or you were completely without funds, they decided that if they will give you $1,000, you'll be significantly enhanced from your economic situation that you're currently in, but in relation to what was due you by inheritance, is that cheating or not? So obviously everybody would say yes. So it was from this angle of vision that Sri Vyasadeva Ji wrote that any dharma which doesn't lead to the perspective of Srimad Bhagavatam, which we're going to discuss what that is kaitava. It's cheating you of what you could ultimately obtain. So it is not that dharma is cheating. It is a perspective on what is possible to be obtained versus what can or is obtained maybe by other practices of dharma. One of the questions by the sages at Naimisharanya was just that. There's so many different sastras, so many different practices. Please, by distilling among all of these, make clear what is an essential practice. And that led to the verse of Aipum Samparo Dharmo, Yaturu Bhakti Roksaje, Oyoitekiya Prityata, Yenatma Suprasidati. So this is one of the verses that describes pure bhakti, because it describes performing dharma, right? And the dharma of the jiva is service to Bhagavan. That's the dharma of the jiva, right? So just like Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written one book, Jaiva Dharma. What is the dharma of the jiva, right? Is essentially to serve Krishna. Mahaprabhu made this also very clear to the inquiries of Srila Sanatana Goswami Pad. Sanatana Goswami Pad asked the question, Keami, Kenyamai Jarita Potrai. Mahaprabhu, in a synopsis answer, said, Nitya Sri Krishna Paramahansa, no, Jivera Sarup Hoye Krishna Nitya Das. And Jivera Tatasta Shakti Ved, Abed Prakash, that the jiva is eternally meant to be in a position of the servant of the Lord, right? And the details of what that means is another thing, but he's given the generic posture, right? That the jiva is a servant of the Lord. And suffering has arisen out of the misconception of not acting on that platform that's made possible by the fact that the jiva is tatashta swabhav. It means they're situated in a position where they can be influenced by material energy and hence not carry out their natural dharma, which is to serve the Lord. So Srimad Bhagavatam is not just establishing what is that dharma, because all sastra really establishes that, right? Vasudeva para Veda. Veda is considered to be the culmination of all knowledge. And Vasudeva para Veda. By all Vedas, Vasudeva is to be known. Here Vasudeva indicates the position of the Lord as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You understand? So all Veda Sastra, all the corollaries of the Vedas, all the Upanishads, all of the, it's meant to point out this fact, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or Lord Narayan, Vishnu, all various manifestations, they're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Srimad Bhagavatam, however, is a little different in that it is seeking, based on the analogy I gave earlier, to point out and show that actually the highest possible understanding is not that God is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but to understand that beyond the Aishwarya, beyond the supremacy of God, is the sweetness of God. Beyond the acknowledgement of the position of God and the position of the jiva is the aspired, beautiful relationship of love that exists between the jiva and Bhagavan. So Srimad Bhagavatam is exclusively meant for that purpose. So when we are studying Srimad Bhagavatam or any sastras related to Srimad Bhagavatam is our mool grunt, means it's the root sastra. Then all of the writings about Goswami Varga and all other things are based in that. Srila Jiva Goswami Pad based the entire Satsandarbhas on Srimad Bhagavatam. So understanding that Srimad Bhagavatam's intention was to give that $1 million inheritance that is due to the jiva, right? So he's saying the jiva can only understand this, technically speaking, in the position of Paramahamsa Avast, means the condition of being Paramahamsa. So what is that Paramahamsa Avast? What is that condition of being Paramahamsa? When one will realize their natural relationship with Krishna, right? That is the highest degree of the attainment of the jiva. And within that realization of one's relationship with Krishna, speaking from Tatashta Vichar, means from a neutral position, because in Ramananda Samvad it is mentioned, this view is Tatashta, meaning, and I'm going to explain what I'm talking about in a second. The view from the neutral position is that obviously Madhurya Rasa is the highest rasa. And the reason I couched or gave some qualifying statements to that is because you cannot say that someone in Sakya Rasa or Vatsalya Rasa that they're not experiencing or tasting or pleasing Krishna in the same way as someone in Madhurya Rasa, right? And in Madhurya Rasa, especially those who are serving in Tat Tat Bhavichmahi, means in Manjari Bhav, right? But from a neutral point of view, Ramananda Samvad has spoken. Yes, from a neutral point of view, you can understand that all the other previous relationships are all present in Madhurya Rasa. The elements of those relationships are present in Madhurya Rasa. You understand? So, but it doesn't mean that there is a lack of satisfaction in those who realize Sakya Rasa as their eternal sthai bhav, or Vatsalya Rasa as their eternal sthai bhav. So we should not think like that. That's why I gave the qualifying statements before. But Srimad Bhagavatam elucidates the absolute truth up to the point of realizing Radhadasyam and Mahabhav. You understand? That's the point. So the actual perspective of Srimad Bhagavatam that takes it out of the category of all other works prior to Vyasadev's epiphany, right? When Srinarji came to Samprasasram and spoke to Vyasadeva, and he noted that there was some sense of despondency there, and he asked and inquired why. Vyasadeva told very aptly that you know better than I. Because having Divya Drishti, divine vision, you can see the core of my heart. In such a way, you can give proper prognosis to my despondency, though you've acknowledged I've done so much work, like yeoman's work, in establishing all kinds of sastra and all kinds of knowledge, etc., etc. Right? So then, obviously, Narada Muni told, what you did not do, however, was to describe the nature of the sweet pastimes of Sri Krishna. So I once inquired from my Guru Parapadma, Nityalila Pravishtam Vishnu Pada Paramahansa, Astotara Sata Sisima, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. I asked Srila Gurudev in Brahma Vaivat Purana, Padma Puran especially, Vishnu Puran to some degree, you'll find mention of Srimati Radhika, Krishna's pastimes, even Ras Lila. So why is it that it's said here that Narada Muni told that Vyasadeva did not write these things? And Gurudev said he did not put in order. So then I use the English word mean like perspective, Gurudev, like he didn't create the perspective like you're teaching us. And Gurudev said, yes, this. That Sri Vyasadeva, prior to his samvad, his conversation with Narada Muni, he had compiled all the sastra, but even it was doubtful from which angle of vision he was compiling. That's why when Parvati Devi was sitting on the lap of Lord Shiva, she asked, listen, can you please tell me what is the position of Vyasadeva? And Mahadev replied, Aham Vedmi, Shuko Vedmi, Vyasavetina Vetiva. I certainly know the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam. I know Shukdev Goswami knows this meaning. Whether Vyas knows or not, I don't know. How could he say such a thing? Because it's mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. So try to follow this nicely. It's mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Vedas chasavan aham eva vejo, Vedantavit Veda krit eva chaham. So Bhagavan has, in order to create the samadhi, means the ingredients of rasa, you require certain things. One thing is called vibhav, and in vibhav it requires alamban. Alamban has two divisions, vishaya jatya and asraya jatya. It means the object of love and the repository of that love. So, Lord Shiva was saying, because, for instance, in this verse in Bhagavad Gita, it's mentioning Krishna saying, by all the Vedas, I am to be known. So he's establishing, I'm the Vishaya Jatya, and I'm also the knower. So it means the person who knows Krishna and knows him the best is whom? Shrimati Radharani. Therefore, she's the ultimate category of Asraya Jatya, because she's the ultimate category of prema or love for Krishna. So Krishna's established that as Radha and Krishna, He is both the knower and what is to be known by Vedas. But then another category is mentioned, Vedanta Krit, a person who compiled all of the information of the Vedas. That person is Vyasadeva. So it does not there express whether Vyasadeva has compiled everything from the angle of vision of Ashraya Jatiya or being the Shaktivesh avatar of Bhagavan from the position of Vishaya Jatiya. What angle of vision did he write? What perspective did he give? And it was not until Srimad Bhagavatam, where after being encouraged by Narada Muni, Bhakti Jogena Manasi Samyak Pratihile Amalaya Pashat Purusham Puranam Mayayam Upasritam, that he saw everything completely in perspective, and therefore he glorified and built the case for the ultimate manifestation of love and service to Bhagavan in the category of the love of Srimati Radhika, which comes in the Dasamaskanda or 10th canto of Bhagavatam in the narration of the Rasa Panchadhyaya, the 5 chapters dealing with Ras. There, after building the case step by step, right, and meeting all the requirements of a Purana, the 10 requirements of a Purana, I'm not going into that now. He built the case and proved the supremacy of the love of Radhika in Srimad Bhagavatam, thereby proving that the highest attainment of the jiva is the ability to serve that mood of Radhika, which is called Radha Dasyama Manjari Bhav. So this is the context or perspective of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is why in the 2nd verse, he's declared Dhamma Projita Kaitavatra. Anything that does not point to this from the angle of his epiphany, his realization, right? His darshan, apashat purusham purana, means he saw everything, right? From that angle of vision, anything else that I might have written before, which any jiva will take, is cheating them of what is possible to be obtained. You understand? So this is called perspective. Now, practically speaking, related to those who are serving in the parampara, the teachings that have come down from Vyasadeva, right? One, we should follow suit with that perspective that he gave. So, in other words, our baseline is that the highest possible realization to be obtained from Srimad Bhagavatam is Radha Dasyam and Manjari Bhav. Right? Now, this is no declaration of who's in what kind of rasa or what you should be thinking in that regard. The unfoldment of your bhajan life is a completely different discussion. Right? We're speaking about perspective to present Srimad Bhagavatam. That's what we're speaking about. Right? So, with that in mind, every single verse, chapter, story, pastime, going up to that point of the 10th canto Srimad Bhagavatam and Rasa Panchadhyaya, and the 11th canto, which describes the process of bhakti, 12th canto, which is describing that, especially in this Kali Yuga, because remember I said Vyasadeva saw apashat parusham purnam. He saw everything completely. How can you see everything completely if you don't see the Leela of Mahaprabhu? How can you see everything if you've not seen this Leela? So in the very last verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, after first establishing the reason why Srimad Bhagavatam is not Kaitava Dharma, but is the highest manifestation for the jiva to be able to obtain, which is Radha Dasyama Manjari Bhav, in Dasamaskanda, in 10th canto. 11th canto, he establishes through various narrations of the Navyogendra, etc., how to practice and how to obtain through bhakti this position. But then he sees something. So in the 12th canto, he begins to describe various things, and among them, prominently, is the predictions for the Kali Yuga. And there he starts to mention all the degraded facts and activities that will take place in the Kali Yuga. And having observed that, then another thing comes out in the very end. Now, this is a very amazing thing. Why, after discussing such a high class of spiritual insight in the form of Ras Leela and the process of bhakti, would your next iteration of thought be about the degradation of Kali Yuga? There is a secret here. Vyasadeva saw that even though this Kali Yuga was going to be so degraded and he points out what will happen. Abhiruchi, mundane, superficial attraction, Maleccha Rajana Rupina, those who are completely unqualified will be in positions of leadership, right? Prajaste Shikshanti, they'll tax citizens till the citizens are completely destroyed. So he saw all these things and he enumerated them. Mandasu Manda Matayo, Manda Bhagyu Badruta, people be unlucky, quarrelsome, short-lived. All of these things he noted. So now, of course, someone can fall into Great Depression, even after reading, right, or understanding the glory of all of the spiritual teachings he previously gave. Oh my gosh, that means I'm going to be living through this period of time? But actually, Vyasadeva saw something very amazing. That in this Kali, which is called Danya Kali, the personification of the philosophical conclusion he came to, of the highest form of the attainment of a jiva, he realized that very thing will come even amidst the degradation of Kali Yuga. And therefore in the Upasanghar verse, the very concluding verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, he writes, Nama Sankirtaniyasa Sava Papa Pranasanam Pranamo Dukkha Samanam Tam Namaming Haring Param. In this Kali Yuga, there will be the coming of that person who, by Nam Sankirtan, will Sava Pap Pranasanam. So again in Sanskrit, this prefix pra means prakrishtarupe, means completely. Nasana means to destroy. He will bring that kind of Sankirtan which can completely destroy all sins at their root. Because you know, karma sin has different things. Like parabdha, aparabdha, kut, and bij. So your karma works in sequences. I'm not going into detail with this thing. You can look it up. But he says the kind of nam that will be presented is such amazing, such incredible thing, because it'll be imbued with Krishna praying. Chiraratadam nija guptavitam swanama prema amrita atyudara. That even though apamra yovita taragora, even though people will be apamra means so fallen because of Kali, the possibility through this nam, which contains prem amrit, the nectar of praying, that they will be able to not only be delivered from sinful life, because even Nama Bas can do this. In Ajamil Upakyan it's stated there, Vaikuntha Nama Sesha Aga Haram Vidu. Even Nama Bas can destroy unlimited sins. But Savapap Pranasanam, to completely uproot the nature of sinful life, is one thing. Additionally, to be able to give that highest attainment is all possible through the Nam given. And who's giving that Nam? That person whom he discussed in the 10th canto, who during the Ras Lila realized the glory of Radhika's praying and had such intense desire to taste it. Purva Vrajavilase Etina Bilas. That after Ras Lila, Krishna was still left with 3 desires. What desires? Shri Radha Mahima Kidraso Vanyeva. What is the glory of her pranay? How she experiences my Chatur Madhuri, means the 4 kinds of special sweetnesses of Krishna. Right? What kind of happiness? Shokyam Chasya. What kind of happiness does she experience in the form of Maranakimabhav? This is the highest kind of love expressed only in Radhika. So because Krishna had this intense desire, he comes in the form of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And taking the form of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, not only does he come in a position to taste the Ashraya Jatiya of the highest order, Srimati Radhika's Maranakimabhav, but by the natural karuna, or mercy that flows naturally from the heart of Radhika, is also present there. And it flows out in this Kali, Danya Kali, for Apamarayo Vitatara Gora. In this Goa Lila, the most fallen person has the opportunity to obtain the highest thing, which is Radhadasan. So seeing that and writing that verse, Vyasadeva was overwhelmed and put his pen down and entered into Goa Lila as Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur and picked up writing again as Chaitanya Bhagavat. Understand? So this kind of perspective allows that whenever we're giving any class, we have an idea of the end goal. What was the purpose for which Bhagavatam was written? Right? This is called doing vichar. Vichar has 6 elements. Upakrama, Upasanghar, Abhyas, Phal, Apurvata, Artavad, and Upapati. Right? So 6 different things are there in Vichar. So Upakrama means for what purpose is the presentation being made? Upasanghar, what is the conclusion? Abhyas, what is the theme that connects the purpose you opened with and your concluding statement? Right? Apurvata, is there something unprecedented that has never been stated before here? Right? Phalam, does it give a fruit? In other words, if somebody was to understand what you've written here and everything, will there be some unique fruit that's born from that? Artavad, does it clarify all of the various meanings of even other things? Like in Srimad Bhagavatam is mentioned, Artam Brahmasutranam, Bhat Artha Vininoya, Gayatri Vasharuposo, Vedartha Paribrahmrita. That what is written in Vedanta Sutra is clarified in Srimad Bhagavatam. What's written in the Itihasa, history called Mahabharata, clarified in Srimad Bhagavatam. Gayatri Vasharuposo. It is the very form of the meaning of the Gayatri mantra. And Vedartha Paribrahmrita and the Chaturveda, 4 Vedas, is fully explained in this Srimad Bhagavatam. So Artavad, Upapati, and does it give examples? Does it give elucidation how we can understand? So if you look closely, Srimad Bhagavatam has all 6 of these things. Tat Lingam, Lingam Tat Paryaninoy, and this is called doing Vichar. Taking these 6 limbs and analyzing with the Sastra how they line up. Srimad Bhagavatam meets all of these criteria. Understand? So when we're speaking, when we're giving Srimad Bhagavatam class, whether it is Ajamil Upakyan, starting tomorrow, even tonight, what to speak of tomorrow, Narasingha Prahalad Charit will be spoken, so much, right? And then so many, even the summary of the pastimes of Sri Ramchandra Ji, everything in Srimad Bhagavatam, right? We'll have to see as some aspect of building the case for what takes place in the Sonam Bonam of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the Ras Panchadhyaya, the chapters which directly delineate love from Purvarav all the way to Mananakya Mahabhav. All right, my Dhanavad Pranam devotees. So this was meant to be brief, and it was meant to give an idea. It is not that in every single class you'll have to immediately start trying to find many Rosic ways to describe everything. But having in mind a perspective, what is the purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam will help to facilitate the connectivity between that purpose and whatever it is you're speaking. That's good for the speaker, for their own edification, and it's good for the audience because now you can communicate in earnest the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? Because simply by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, right? It's mentioned there. If one will hear Srimad Bhagavatam, Satam Prasangam Mamavir Samviro, Bhavanti Ved Karna Rasanayakata, Tajosat Asu Apavagavatmani. Apavaga will take place. Freedom from material energy will take place. Then Shraddha Rati Bhakti Shraddha Bhakti Rati Anukramishati. And then in a crumb, in a sequence, Shraddha will come, then Bhav Bhakti meaning Rati, and then Prem Bhakti will come. Just by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam in prasanga of a sadhu. Satam Prasangam. Hearing in the association of sadhus who understand this meaning, realize something of this, then the mood of Bhagavatam will enter into the heart of that person. And once it enters, Krishna will enter along with it. Right? All right. Yeah, I think that is it. And hopefully this was helpful for the person who wrote the question. And also for my edification as well. Jai Hari Bol. Panchakalpataruvishya Kripa Sindhuvevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Yeah, I didn't want to go too much into detail also because I'm doing a small seminar on this very point of Srimad Bhagavatam coming up in May at one men's gathering, and so more details will be in that. I don't know, before people ask whether it's recorded or not. I think it's for that particular group, so forth and so on. But anyway, Please also, all the Vaishnava Vaishnavis, please give me your kripa that somehow or another I can go on to serve my Guru Parapadma's lotus feet and our Guru Vaga and their Harikatha and the mission of Mahaprabhu. Jai Haribo Radhe Radhe.